You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Passive Practice Profits, BrainTap Technology, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, ChiroPro Accounting, A-Line, and Midwest Brain Health Technology. Let's hustle!
Hey guys, welcome to episode 257 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Dominique Taylor, and if you want to hear about the story of middle school to doctor, stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I have my co-host right here with me,
Luke Millette.
And I'm over here, Jim Chester, and today we have Dr. Dominique Taylor with us, and I'm really excited to have you on our show. I know it hasn't been the easiest go to get us connected, but we have been connected for some time now, so welcome to the Chiro Hustle podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I love what we're doing here because we're shining a spotlight on your story today, and this is a tapestry of the chiropractic profession woven together by the golden thread of the truth of chiropractic, and that's really what we stand for, is keeping the truth of chiropractic alive and well, and being consistent with that. And I think that's more important now more than ever, as the regular mainstream media likes to say, now more than ever. So now more than ever, I'm really excited to have you on our show. And maybe you can just open up with us, let us know your chiropractic story and what really influenced you to get into this beautiful profession.
Sure. So I decided I wanted to be a chiropractor when I was pretty much in middle school, probably. I know that seems a little weird, but I knew a chiropractic family. I was very involved with their family, if you will. And my first adjustment was during a sporting event, and I just really liked what they did. So I decided, at that time that, hey, I've always wanted to go into the medical field of some sort, and chiropractic seems pretty cool. So I, kind of explored it a little bit more, but I really saw how this family integrated with the community. They were well respected. They treated a lot of patients. I loved the family themselves. They were very healthy, outgoing. I mean, it just seemed like, all the things that I kind of wanted for myself and kind of wanted to have for maybe a future family for myself. My family thought I was crazy, how kids go through those, different times in their life where they want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, you name it. There's always something different each week, if you will. But I never changed my mind. I mean, it was really from 8th grade on. I even knew I wanted to go to Palmer because that was the best school. At least that's what I knew at that time. I still believe that, but I don't want to ruffle any tail feathers out there. But I went on a visit in high school, and I definitely decided that's what I wanted to do. I went through the same process everyone else does as far as getting accepted. I knew at the time I was playing, or let me trace back. Once I finished high school, I was offered a softball scholarship. So I knew I was going to play softball for a little while, but I wanted to get to Palmer as fast as possible. So I only played for a year and a half, and I took, all the prereqs I could possibly take to make the transition smoother. Went to Kansas State, finished a few things, and then finished my bachelor's degree, and then went to Palmer. I finished my bachelor's degree because at that time there was certain states that required you to have a bachelor's before you could get your license, and it couldn't be from the institution that you got your DC license or degree from. So at that time, I didn't really know where I was going to be in the United States. I wanted to keep all my options open, so I went ahead and finished my bachelor's first. I had a lot of classmates who didn't do that or didn't even know about it. And I guess just because I had been, laser focused to go this route since about the 8th grade, I kind of knew all the steps and, everything that I could possibly, any advice other people gave me, all of that kind of stuff. I would say that when I was in probably college, the first year, maybe the second year, I had a little bit of time where I kind of wavered on, what kind of chiropractor I wanted to be, because there was a lot of talk about different kinds of chiropractors, and I just knew that I wanted to help people. I wanted it to be a little bit different than mainstream medical. I still was very interested in, if someone had a broken bone, if I could help, fix something, so that stuff wasn't out of my mind. It's just, I knew with chiropractic, maybe I could keep them healthier from having, sporting like injuries and whatnot. So that was kind of the route I went. Yeah, so once I got to school, I started to specialize in more sports-like things, if you will. I'm full body ART provider. I'd started all of that while I was in school, so I would be prepared to treat athletes a little bit more than, maybe when you first graduate. I believe our class also was maybe the second one from Palmer Davenport that went through the PT curriculum, where we were able to sit for the board and actually practice some physiotherapy, right? That's what we call it, while we were in school. So that's kind of my story. I had family members that wanted me to go more medical, just because I have several nurses and some other doctors in my family. So they were somewhat disappointed in me, I guess, because I don't know if they looked at me like I didn't get the degree that I could have or something, but I think once they saw me become the doctor I am now, they understand. So it's not that one thing is better than the other. I'm just treating patients a little bit differently.
That's a really unique path, and I'm really it's impressive to know that you were considering being a chiropractor since middle school.
Yeah, a lot of people think that's really weird.
No, I think that, a lot of times when you know. And that's one of the things that when you're experienced into something at a young age, you realize the good that it brings. And that's really where the placebo effect comes in with our mind, is if we see it's a good thing, no one has to tell us if it's right or wrong. And that's kind of from your story, kind of what I picked up on, is that you just knew that it was the right thing to do because you saw that it was something that helped people.
Yeah. I guess I've always been kind of the type of person that wanted to make anything better than what it was. And that's kind of not, I don't know that I'm saying I'd like to make chiropractic better than it is, but I'm very involved in, my state and local organizations to kind of help move things, whether it's with insurance or, access to care or something like that. So I don't know, it's a passion of mine, if you will. So as soon as I get focused on something, I just try to finish it up, see as far as I can go. And if there's something else I can do outside of it that will, mesh two sides of something to make it work better, I'm kind of for all that.
So what are some things that make you unique in the chiropractic world?
I would say one of my goals once I've finished school was to open my own practice. That's not really unique to me. A lot of doctors do that, but I also wanted to be medically integrated. I currently am in a practice. This is my, second office. I've only had two, one in Texas and then one here in New Mexico. We have a physical therapist, myself, and an MD, a family practice doctor. And then we also have a kind of a med spa type of practice in there. So I really enjoy being in a situation like that because we can refer patients back and forth. If I've got a patient who is just, in a ton of pain, they're so spastic, I can't even get them to lay down on the table. I can say, hey, can you pop across the hall and see the doctor real quick and see if he can't, give you some sort of prescription or help you with this in another way. What are they going to give you? I don't know. I don't do that part, but if they can be helpful to you, and then in a couple days you can come back and we can see what we can do for you. Or maybe it's someone who is needing or comes in and is needing a little more PT, a little more physical therapy than I'm likely to do. It's easy for me to say, hey, doctor over here, he's got some time, just pop in there real quick. He takes your insurance or, something like that. It just makes the transition extremely helpful for the patient. And I have a lot of patients who enjoy that. So I think it's unique, mostly because we're able to help a patient without sending them into another facility. So much so that now, because we've had some of the med spa-like services, we've been able to help patients with migraine headaches with Botox. We've been able to help patients with IV vitamin hydration therapies. A lot of those things are really helpful for a patient.
So, what are some mantras that you live your life by, or maybe what are some of your favorite inspirational or motivational quotes?
Oh boy, quotes. Um, I guess I had some in my mind, but now they're evading me. I guess there's this one by John Wayne. It's something like um, "Life's tough, but it's even tougher if you're stupid," or something like that. And it makes me laugh. So I say, okay. I mean, I'm not trying to label anyone as not as smart as someone else, but life's tough. Get over it. Like, put on your boots, strap them up, and get going. There's always something to learn, so you got to get out there and figure it out.
Yeah, that reminds me of BJ Palmer quote, "Don't take yourself too damn seriously."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and chances are you're not the expert in whatever it is you think you're the expert in. So there's always someone else out there that knows something or has tried something, that you haven't. So I just try to learn as much as I can to be able to be as helpful as possible.
Yeah, I think that when you think about like what gets us motivated and what our mantras are and how we go about our days, um, I know that all chiropractors want to help more people and they all have a servant's heart. And I think that that's something really important when it comes to like being a caregiver and, understanding that the person in front of you might be experiencing something that, needs your expertise in. And I believe that, as I got into the profession, I didn't always like to go to work. I mean, I think that that's something that all of us kind of like get faced with is like showing up. And one of my mantras was always to go forth and serve. And if I just knew that I was out there, living that type of lifestyle, I was going to help more people. And a lot of times you just have to get out of your own way. And I think that that's something else that kind of like resonates with me with this conversation with you today is like, it's not always going to be like the funnest day all the time. But I think that if you just go show up and do your best, that says a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, there's a lot of times where there's paperwork. Maybe you have files that someone's requesting. You don't really want to do all of that because you have other things
Exactly.
to do, but you do it.
Exactly. It's that anytime somebody's like, just send me an email on that, you're like, I don't want to send another email.
Yeah.
And you get
Yep.
like, you get thrust into that like stack of like emails now that somebody's like, just email me on that.
Yep. Nope, it's true. And I'm actually guilty of that because it's like I'm paying attention sort of. Can you just email me that? And it's like, no, pay attention, learn it, figure it out right now, and then, then move on.
So, how do you think the world would change if everyone started seeing chiropractors and getting adjusted when necessary?
Um, I think people would be a lot more self-aware. I think that in a chiropractic office, traditional or advanced or integrated, whatever you'd like to call it, I think they are able to speak to someone who has a different ability to listen, maybe teach them about things that they have questions about that maybe are afraid to ask other providers about. Or I find myself sometimes just kind of, I wouldn't say fishing, but I'm pushing into them a little bit, trying to get more information, right? Because a lot of times we're trying to figure out, why is this happening? How long has it been happening? What are some other reasons why it could have happened than whatever the patient thinks? Because typically um, they're a little off in my experience. Um, and I think that they definitely be more self-aware with nutrition, different options for therapies and treatments, a lot of more natural type of things. Now, I know that there's a time and place for everything out there, but if patients um, went to a chiropractor, they might be able to skip some of those steps to feeling better rather than seeing this provider over, that provider and get sent to that provider. I find a lot of my patients come in, and I don't know if it's my office, the way I do things, or all doctors, all chiropractors are like this, but I get annoyed when someone tells me they've been to 3 other doctors before they've come to me, and something was so simple. It's just listening to them. Or I can't tell you how many times I've found spondylos with a patient who they've been treated for 6 years, who knows how many doctors, and they never did a flexion extension x-ray, a simple flexion extension x-ray. And the person's problem is, completely apparent. Whether or not they need surgery or not, that's for, a consult with a neurosurgeon. But I've had several have to have surgery, and they've had, 6 years of treatment that was unnecessary, or maybe they could have had, other types of treatments. If we would have just known that was the case, it wouldn't have gotten as bad as it did. Maybe they wouldn't have had to have surgery. So things like that annoy me. So I try to be very proactive. If I think a patient needs imaging, referral, even if it's just getting something authorized, I'm typically the one in my office who does it rather than having staff, because I want to make sure it's done today or tomorrow instead of next week. Where I live, we like to have this saying, or people have the saying, the land of mañana. New Mexico is the land of mañana. We'll get it done. We'll get it done. Well, I like to have it done. I don't like to just talk about doing it. So I think that's kind of how I think patients do best in my office.
Absolutely. I think, just listen to what you're saying is, people come to chiropractors because they want to feel better, and they don't understand any of the philosophy. They don't really understand what the profession stands for. So when they come in, they're like, well, this person's going to do XYZ, but it has to be a competent practitioner to do a proper exam and to understand that there is a limitation of matter when it comes to the human potential of a person. And if they don't take care of themselves for 40 years and they come in, they want you to adjust away their pain, then you have to do a proper exam, and you have to realize that they didn't come in with the typical body or a healthy body. And that's really what most chiropractors get. And that's what I've seen is a lot of times when a person starts care, you ask them 7 to 10 visits in, they don't even remember what they came in for originally, because they're feeling so good that the original complaint that whatever drove them to the chiropractor, that they were getting misdiagnosed with, or seen 3 physicians for, or been under care with another practitioner, and they weren't getting results. They come to the right fit, and they start getting care, and their life starts to change to a point where they feel a lot like they're healing. And I think that that's ultimately what the chiropractic profession wants to lead towards. Like, if everybody were getting checked and adjusted as needed, then we wouldn't find people that were going around the circle and trying to fit in with a certain physician, because I don't think anybody out there really wants to go see a doctor. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but if they're like, hey, go see the doctor, but like, no, I would rather go see my chiropractor. But most people that you say you have to go in and get something, they're like, I'm going to go to that one. And they don't even think that chiropractic is an option. And a lot of times the people that are helping them are their family, and they're making decisions based on their past experiences. So they don't even think of chiropractic ever being an option for most things. Like you're talking about earlier, somebody, recovering from migraines. Like a lot of times when people think about the classic headache conditions, most people never even consider chiropractic. They're like, take this, this, and this. And then that's why a lot of people come into you after seeing 3 physicians and no one's ever really done a proper diagnosis on them, and they start feeling better under your care, which I think is a huge blessing for the chiropractic profession, that not only do you guys help people, but a lot of people that don't know where to go or who to trust, that have tried all the other providers, come to the chiropractor and say, thank you for doing a proper exam. Thank you for doing a proper set of films. Thank you for doing a proper treatment protocol for me to where my body's now responding. And a lot of these things I came in with, this whole suitcase of conditions, are now starting to go away. And honestly, after 7 to 10 visits, you're going to ask them, they're going to be like, yeah, I think I came in for something, but I don't remember. So kudos to you for being somebody that can be a solution-based practitioner.
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely nice to have patients, recover quickly and do exactly what you said. Not remember why they came in the first place, because all that's gone. Now it's new stuff that, little aches and pains, which is always, easier stuff for us to treat.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about human condition, and we just have to like really retrain the way that people think about taking care of themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I prefer, or I would prefer, if patients would come to us first rather than second, third, fourth, fifth. And then if they have a experience that was, not super for them, if they would just consider finding another office, because every doctor, every person, is different. So you may mesh better in one office versus another, maybe their staff and maybe the doctor themselves. But yeah, definitely finding the right person for you is very important, especially if you're, let's say, an athlete. I mean, you don't want to be at the pediatric chiro's office. Even if you're a young athlete, you still want someone that's got a lot of experience as you grow and you have some different things. But that's kind of my recommendation for people.
Just out of curiosity, do you see any famous athletes?
I don't currently. When I was in San Antonio, I did a lot of work for the Silver Stars and for the Rampage hockey team. A couple of those guys on the hockey team went to professional, because the Rampage is semi-pro. But yeah, it's I've seen a few in my day. Mostly I worked with, I guess would be like your Ironman. That was a lot of my athletes. Some of them were pro, but they're not as recognized as some others.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Passive Practice Profits, BrainTap Technology, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, Chiro Pro Accounting, A-Line, and Midwest Brain Health Technology. Let's hustle.
So where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years or so?
Well, from what I know from working, locally and on a state level with different associations, I know that change takes a lot of time, right? But small incremental change over time can create big change. And I don't see it changing a ton in 20 years, to be very honest. I would like to see it be a little more inclusive, a little more of worry about yourself, let these people do what they're doing. As long as we're still staying wholesome, still trying to be chiropractors and not trying to be other types of providers. If you want to be a different kind of provider, then go to school, learn how to be that provider. I'm okay with that too. You can have 2 degrees, no problem. But I don't really see a lot of change, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's a real responsible answer, because the people that have different views of the chiropractic profession, there's plenty of other people out there that are doing that type of work. And there's plenty of people out there that are those types of doctors. So I think chiropractic needs to stay unique and distinct and stay on its side of the line. And it's, kind of the slippery slope when we start blurring those lines as to chiropractic getting, put into the threshold of mainstream medicine, which I just don't think it will ever have a place in that, because chiropractic has always been a standalone profession. So I think anybody that you mentioned, that does want to come into the profession and say, we're going to do it this way. Well, yeah, go get a dual degree and you can do what you feel under your other license, or you can refer to somebody that's in your network. And I think that that's really what they have to understand in 20 years, that chiropractic will become the referral hub for all medical professions. And I really think that if we saw that happening, we wouldn't have the same cut it out, drug it out, burn it out type of healthcare, which, I don't know. Sometimes you need that stuff, but I think that, like you said earlier, if people just came in and started getting care early with any type of neurological condition or any type of ache, pain, or strain, they would realize that chiropractic can get people quicker, back into whatever quality of life they're looking for. And philosophically standing, chiropractic has to stay strong, and we have to continuously, make sure that the people that are the practitioners know where they came from. And as long as they're going to the right direction, I think we just have to really, like they always said, guard the sacred trust and make sure that the chiropractor is doing right by themselves, but also the future chiropractors. So I think that, we just have a lot of nurturing to do for the right messages. And that if we do it the right way, then in 20 years, we're going to be very proud of where the profession's headed.
Yeah. And we really need to, as we're moving forward like this and we're discussing change, if there's going to be change, we need to do it in a productive way. One of the biggest reasons why I think we have a hard time with other professionals giving us adequate or equal clout, maybe that's not the right word, but we fight too much amongst ourselves. I mean, if you get 50 chiros in a room, they have some vastly different ideas, even if they have the same exact philosophy, even if they went to the same exact school. I just feel like we feel like we're right, like I'm right. You're not as right as I am. I feel like we need to stop doing that. We need to be more productive, maybe agree on a few things, and then start to move forward if we're going to. Even if it's, agree to stay similar without change or, different things like that. But I feel like we can't even do that sometimes. So I think that's where we need to be. Like our thought process needs to be in a place where we can help our profession rather than break it apart.
Absolutely.
So who have been some of your heroes on this journey of yours to become a chiropractor?
I would say probably the family that I mentioned earlier. I didn't ask him permission to say their name, so I didn't want to do that. But there's actually two in the town that I grew up in, and they were very, very influential for me. But there was also a medical doctor that I worked for a little bit while I was in college, and he was always pushing me to go more med side. But he opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I think because of that opportunity to work in his practice and to see that, I was able to, stay the course and just be a little more open-minded on what kind of clinic I'd like to have in the future. So that's where I get to this integrated office, is because I see a place and a reason to have him, not him, but another MD right there. And especially if it's like a diabetic patient that's got, all these other things going on with them. If I tell them to do XYZ, let's say maybe it's nutrition wise, I want them to get some kind of nutritional therapy, and there's certain limits to what I can do as a chiropractor, but I can have them go across the hall and, meet with a dietitian that the MD is prescribed to them. And if I didn't have that opportunity, that patient would leave, and it would be months down the road before they were able to get an appointment, possibly if they even followed up. So I have better follow through with treatment protocols or options, having that integration versus not.
Yeah, I mean, mentorship is huge, and it's important to be able to learn from others. And you being the doctor, that's the beautiful thing about having a degree, is you can choose to practice as you see fit. And I think a lot of times when people go through their education, they learn from others. They go in shadow. They figure out what type of office they want to run and what type of disciplines they want to follow up on. I think it's just it's cool to me to hear that you learned as a student, and now as a doctor, you're out there doing the best for your community that you know how to, based on the resources that you developed around you. I think that's just a very responsible way to practice based on outcome. And that's really what people are looking for, is they're looking for the better outcome. And I do think that when people want to figure out how to build a community and a network, that you have to be responsible with who you choose as well as a referral source.
Yeah, I agree. And this model probably wouldn't work as well in San Antonio, where I lived prior or previously, but where I live currently, we have a real problem with access to care. So to have a facility that has access to care, several different types of care, is extremely helpful.
Absolutely.
Well, if you could pick anyone from history to sit down and have dinner with, who would you pick?
Oh, I would say, gosh, I don't know. That's really hard. There's a couple people, but gosh, I don't know. Can I come back to that question?
Sure. So let's talk about marketing for a little bit. How do you market yourself in your space, and what are some things that have worked or haven't worked?
Okay. So for me, I've done a little bit of everything. I've been a chiropractor since 2009, so quite a few years to try a few things out. I probably could tell you more about the things that I don't think that work than that I think that work well. But when I first started practicing in San Antonio, I got involved with these, I don't even know what they're called anymore, but these group sessions where you'd go have lunch and you'd talk, and it wasn't anything specific. It wasn't like Rotary, which I would do, but where you basically hand out your card and chit chat. I didn't feel like that was very helpful to me, but I did learn a lot about my community. So as far as like getting patients, maybe it wasn't great, but I did learn a lot more about who lives around me, so I could start doing more focused patient work, or marketing. I tried to do like fairs, where you go and treat people and do all that kind of stuff. I think the best type of situation I found myself in like that was doing athletic events, because I was very athletic minded, if you will. The majority of my patients were that way. So I would do 5Ks or do some different kinds of runs, events, if you will. I found that the majority of our mountain biking races and triathlons were my best patient base, because they hurt themselves. I mean, you have to be so dedicated to push through the pain in order to finish a lot of those races, that they wind up, right there with you, and they're so thankful you're there, because they've got, a 2-hour drive home or something where they actually need immediate attention, no matter what it is, whether it's just, helping them with a trigger point or a spastic muscle that, they can't straighten their leg because their calf's all, just tense. That's super helpful. I liked to do that. That was kind of my jam when I lived out there. But moving to New Mexico, I really had to get into marketing in a different way. I started using Facebook a lot more, making sure that I had a good presence out there. In fact, I started my own marketing company specifically for myself and another couple chiropractors that I knew, and it's developed into something much bigger than that since then. But definitely Facebook advertising has helped a ton. I've done everything from we're doing something crazy in our office, come get a myovision scan, and a consultation, something like that, to more in-depth things, for specific migraines or something like that. But those seem to work really well, and they continue to work. It's always a process of getting your message out to as many people as possible. So right now, especially where I live in a rural area where Facebook is still number one. Not everyone's on Instagram. Not everyone does Clubhouse. I mean, if I asked anyone here if they knew what Clubhouse was, I'd have like 3 hands up probably. So yeah, definitely Facebook. Radio is decent here too. That probably wouldn't work so well in the big city, but those are some of my favorites, if you will. And email reactivation of patients, older patients, is huge. A lot of times they get busy doing whatever they're doing, especially in an area like this. We have a lot of ranchers, and sometimes they the only time they think to get help or treatment or have a condition looked at is when they can't walk. And it shouldn't be that way, right? So if you can just put a little bug in their ear and say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything that I can help you with this month? I'd love to make an appointment for you. Typically they will come back, oh yeah, I should have called you a month ago when I fell off my horse, but so here they are coming in. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah, I love the strategy. I think that a lot of times when people think about marketing, they think about new. And I love the idea about reactivating people into care again. And I think that most people, if they build a relationship with you and you continuously nurture them and do a nurturing style campaign, they want to come see you. They just busy their lives up. And that's one more thing on their checklist that they need to do. So if you're willing to help them out and to stay in touch with them, I think that that's a really, really smart strategy, especially in a smaller community where you can kind of just give people those digital nudges and say, hey, by the way, we haven't seen you in like 3 months. Here's a great opportunity for us to schedule you so you don't have to do that for yourself. And we'll just be your advocate. So I think that's a really cool technique. So you said that these things are working well for you. What did you try when you got out of school, I guess, that you're not going back to? I mean, you said something about screenings.
Oh, yeah. Those were a waste of time.
Did you go do those and expect it to work?
Yeah, kind of, but really what I found from that, I mean, because what do you know when you get out of school? That's what everyone's doing, right? And especially if you join a practice, which I did not do, but, so several friends did. And, here I am hearing about them doing screenings and all this stuff. So I was like, oh, it must be working if that's what everyone's doing. So, but you find out that the patient that comes to that is coming for cheap, free care, if you will. They really don't want to follow through. They don't want to, I mean, you might find a few here and there, but I have to say for the most, it's just something, hey, quick, hey, I've never been to a chiropractor before, or, hey, can you fix this? Can you tape me? Can you, they're just looking for that quick fix right then and there. And they really, it wasn't really helpful for building a practice. It built skills and some communication and some other things, which are important. But it didn't get me, 50 new patients through the door. And it's hurry up, right? The whole time you're like, hurry, hurry, hurry. So if you're really trying to reach a patient and have a real conversation, you don't have that much time.
So what would be some advice that you would give to a student who's about to graduate?
Most of the students graduating now should have a pretty decent grasp on Facebook, social media. I would say learn it, do a little bit of dabbling in it if you can, or find someone who knows something about it to help you with your practice. Because that's going to be the marketing side, and you can get a ton of free advertising or marketing or just content just by posting daily on your own page. People will see it. They'll start to follow something, especially if you're giving nutrition tips or, anything like that. I wouldn't jump into a, what do they call them? A management company or group. Unless you know someone who's specifically in one that has done great and just looks amazing and, you feel like that's for you, because a lot of what they teach you, I have found that, you can kind of learn yourself. I started my first practice with $5,000. I bought a table, I bought an e-stem machine and a computer, and I was like, all right, let's go. Right. And as I started to see patients, I was able to purchase a few other things and kind of grow my office. In San Antonio, I had 3 to 5 massage therapists at a time, myself and front desk staff, a pretty good practice base. And that didn't happen overnight, and you shouldn't expect it to. It's okay to start small. And then I guess another thing that I would say, I've seen so many friends get into bad contracts definitely have an attorney look at your contract if you're going to work for somebody and make sure that it has your best interest in it and not necessarily that doctor. I just hear too many bad stories about working for other offices.
Do you think students should pick their schools based on geographic location?
Well, I didn't. I chose a school. I chose Palmer Davenport in 8th grade, and I lived in Kansas, so I could have easily gone to Cleveland Chiropractic right there. I didn't do that. I chose a school that I thought was the best at the time, and a lot of people may think one school is better than another based off of whatever criteria. Maybe it's a specific something they're wanting to do in their future with their degree, or maybe they have a strong program, for like a master's or some other type of degree that you're seeking, or even technique possibly. So I would just say pick it based off of what you feel like you're going to want to do in the future.
So what do you like to do for fun? What are some things that you read or listen to, and maybe what are some of your hobbies?
I'm kind of an outdoors person. I like to mountain bike. I deal with stress and I don't feel like I'm a stressful person. I really don't. But I do know that the more physically active I am, the less stress I have, or at least I feel like I feel good, that euphoric, I guess, maybe. So just being physically active, whether it's going to the gym or mountain biking, or even taking my kids on a hike or something like that. That's what I like to do. Things I listen to. That changes so much, honestly. I can go 1 month, listening to Grant Cardone, something like Sell or Be Sold, clear on to something different where it's a more chiropractic based, if you will. Maybe it's, I don't know, it just depends, honestly. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm all over the world when it comes to what I listen to.
I find interesting is most of the time we've done so many of these interviews and no one ever says music.
Well, I guess I do listen to music. I have Pandora, and I listen to a lot of different things on that. And then I just have Sirius XM, and I listen to a little more of the teeny bopper stuff. I do have to say I like to TikTok every now and then, so maybe that's something I like that's a little different than everyone else. I haven't done one in a while because I've been kind of busy. When I am not busy, I find things to make me busy, which completely, my husband hates that. He's like, you're not busy enough. You need to do something. So I create stuff. So if you ever see me TikToking a lot, it's because I've got some time on my hands.
Well, we're getting close to the edge of this interview, but before we ended this, I wanted to circle back to who would you like to have dinner with? Someone from history, if you thought of anyone.
That's really hard. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I could just throw out a random name that maybe wouldn't be as meaningful, but I have to say someone that I really look up to and that has helped me a ton, that I don't get to talk to with all the time, that I would like to, is my grandmother. My mom's mom, she's still alive and everything. I haven't had the time to sit down and learn more about her life. And I really would like to, because she's the foundation of how I got to where I am. My mom, she had me as a teen. So she didn't finish high school. She wound up getting her GED years later. And then years later, when I was in middle school, she started nursing school. So I am actually the first person in my family to go a traditional college chiropractic, have a degree even, so it's the strength that my grandmother gave my mom that gave to me, and then my two sisters who also have, went to the medical field, I think is really cool. So I would say I need to get to know her better.
Great answer. Yeah, that's really sweet, really special. Well, Dr. Dominique, is there anything we didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today before we wrap it up?
I don't know. Just if you have an idea in mind or you have a goal, stay the course, get it done.
That's really good wisdom. Well, we just want to thank you for being our guest today. I'm happy we were able to connect with you and get a good, strong internet connection. I know last time we talked, you had a windstorm came through, and we were able to get you back on our schedule again. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. And we just want you to have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Dominique. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.